Welcome to today's episode of Commissioner's Corner. I'm your host, Allen County Commissioner Ron Turpin. Over the last 30 years that we've lived here, we have seen a tremendous amount of growth in Allen County, particularly in the city of Fort Wayne. My guest today has been on the Fort Wayne City Council since 2012 and has witnessed much of that growth. To talk about the past and the future of Fort Wayne, I'm pleased to have with me today Fort Wayne City Councilman Russ Yale. Russ, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I find that most people never get the chance to share their story, how they got to where they're at today. Can you share some of your story with us?
Yeah. Fort Wayne resident. This is where I grew up. This is my home. I'm a Concordia graduate. As far as my college goes, Hillsdale College. So conservatism runs very deep in me. Very happily married, coming up on my 20th anniversary.
Congratulations.
2 kids.
Yeah.
And it's getting scary. Yesterday, I actually just took our sophomore son on a college visit.
Hillsdale?
Was not not Hillsdale, but that one could be coming up. Most of my life, I've been a commercial real estate broker. I've worked for Congressman Jim Banks for a couple of years, and right now I've got really the best day job in the world. My wife and I work together, and we take retirees on bus vacations all over the country.
Yeah, I think that's something you guys did several years ago, right? A family business that you and your wife kind of took over.
Yeah, exactly. My father-in-law's business. My wife decided to take it over, so. I work for my wife during the day, and
we all work for our wives, my friend.
And in the off hours, I guess I'm working for my wife.
So why Hillsdale? I mean, that's something that a lot of the listeners, Hillsdale, obviously very constitutional focused, non-religious, but more, in a Christian bent and conservatism. So why Hillsdale?
Yeah, specifically. Great academics. So I have a business degree from there. But then what else are you going to get besides the academics, besides the business? I loved that it had Christian influence, but I coming from a Christian high school, I wanted my decision on my faith and my college education to be on me. So they did not force me to have Christian classes, but I ended up actually taking with a minor degree in religion.
Okay.
And then of course, one thing that most people don't know is I also walked on. I had the opportunity to walk on and play soccer. So I played soccer, my D2 soccer for my 3 years there.
So you're going to be going to see the new stadium then, right?
Oh, can't wait. Can't wait. If I can get a seat.
I am assured the seats will be in. And the right time, we will have the Fort Wayne guys on to talk about the soccer stadium. So that'll be a great show too.
Yeah.
So walk us through. You've been on City Council now. I think this is your 4th term. And so I know a lot of people ask me questions. What does a commissioner do? I think a lot of people may not have an understanding of what a city councilman does. So walk us through a little bit about what a typical month looks like for you.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, we'll put it in most simple terms. A councilman, we are the legislative branch for the city and also the fiscal body for the city. The mayor is the executive, and then we depend on the county to be the judicial branch. And then what does that look like? Well, it looks like a lot of neighborhood questions, and then as far as the actual city council meetings, then it's approving budgets and approving the laws, or as we call them, ordinances for the city.
Yeah, municipality looks a little different than the county, because in the county, as commissioner, we are both the legislative and the executive branch. County council is the fiscal body, that approves the budget and any kind of spend in there. City council has the spend as well as the legislative. Hence, why you all meet every week and the county council meets once a month is because of that difference in legislation.
And the work ethic.
I don't know. I'd say that. Oh, wow. Oh, my county councilman friends will not be happy with you. So walking through in your public service, what is a favorite part of your job?
Oh, well, you've already referenced it. I've had the opportunity to do this for several years, and to be a part of the rise of Fort Wayne over this last generation has just been intoxicating. I wake up every day, and I can't believe that my job is to dream about how to make Fort Wayne an even better place to live in. And boy, it's just enthralling.
Okay. What about the least favorite?
Well, okay. So you get credit where maybe you don't get all, where it's not all due. Well, you definitely get the blame where it's not all due. So, you name the problem. 45,000 people can call me and demand that I answers as to why I haven't fixed it yet.
Well, and that's, interesting. One of the reasons that we started this show is to really give a longer format to really dig into deeper questions, right? And so you look at social media especially. You talk about a least favorite part of the job. I know I constantly am seeing things about where supposedly I said or thought this, and it's not true.
There are a lot of mind readers.
There are, or second guessers to how to do your job, right? And it's one of those that you can't, number one, there is a truth to not reading the comments because you want to respond, and a lot of times it's just better not to respond, right? And I've kind of come to the point where I'm like, you know what? Let my no be no, my yes be yes. And so, if someone's prognosticating that, well, I know that, Ron or Russ are going to do this, well, I may not be doing that. You don't know. And when I make the decision, you'll see it publicly, right? So, but that is tough because you're right. There's always someone who knows how to do your job better. I actually told someone a couple weeks ago who was telling me what a terrible job I was doing. I'm like, well, if you want to run against me in 2 yees, you can. I mean, that's your right. Well, suddenly it was very different, but that definitely is one that's, can at times be a challenge, can it? So
it is what it is. It's part of the job. It's and it's part of the honor.
It is. That's absolutely right. So, over the years that you've been on council, you've had other council members come and go over those time period. What do you believe has been the biggest issue that's been before council, and why?
Yeah, I mean, there are the conventional ways to answer that. You might talk about, the biggest economic development project like Electric Works. You might talk about the most controversial thing.
Oh, we will talk about Electric Works. Don't worry.
Maybe the most controversial thing is probably collective bargaining. I would say probably the most important thing. It won't be. I think fast forward another generation. I think they'll look back at us and say probably the biggest issue that was out there was exactly how to pay for economic development, especially economic development downtown. We have had a generation of elected officials that have cut an awful lot of ribbons and had a lot of glamorous photos produced, but has done so with the credit card. And so here in this SB1 world now, all of a sudden that money that has been spent but not paid for will make things very difficult going forward. And so we have done a great job of making a lot of hype and a lot of glamorous downtown projects, but not really set up the next generation for paying for it.
Yeah. And that is something we'll get into a few questions from now, really about Senate Enrolled Act 1 and what the impact of that will be. And as the listener may remember, Senate Enrolled Act 1 is property tax reform and the impact that's going to have on local governments. So, something that I always talk to our team about is really that return on investment, right? If we're going to invest a tax dollar here, what is the return on that investment?
Exactly.
I know I've heard you ask that question before, Russ.
That's why you and I get along.
That is something, shockingly, is not something that's ever talked about in government. You're right. It's the sexy name Google, or it's the ribbon cutting, or it is. I remember years ago when a certain mayor was running for re-election, there was like a ribbon cutting almost every single day.
Right.
And for projects that you knew were never going to happen. However, we live in a media cycle, right, where it is all optics that's there instead of the meat of really asking those questions. So kind of along the line of the same discussion, what do you believe is the biggest issue before Fort Wayne today?
Okay. All right. There are actually four. I know you asked for one, but let me just say they form the biggest issue, which is Fort Wayne on the right track or wrong track? And the first time in a generation, I think people are beginning to ask whether Fort Wayne's on the right track, because it's kind of been taken for granted that Fort Wayne's done really well for several years now. But I think insofar as the big issues are the casino, the homeless shelter downtown, the North River Field House, and then the pregnant discussion that nobody wants to actually have, which is probably if you do all those things, you're going to have an income tax increase. Every single constituent that I've talked to maybe could be persuaded on those things individually, but when you step back and say, it's very possible in a couple of years we've got a casino, a homeless shelter, an expensive North River project, and an income tax increase, everybody says, whoa, that's not Fort Wayne. That's not the direction we should be heading.
Right. And we will talk about all of those things after we come back after our next commercial break. You've been listening to Commissioner's Corner here on WOWO. Welcome back to Commissioner's Corner. I'm your host, Allen County Commissioner Ron Turpin, and our guest today is Russ Shale, Fort Wayne City Councilman. So, Councilman, we were talking about some of the challenges in city government, and Fort Wayne is one of those communities that has split government. So the majority of city council are Republicans, so 6 of the 9 members. And you have a Democratic mayor. Yeah. We've had a Democratic mayor for a long time now, between Mayor Tucker and then Mayor Henry before her. How do you successfully work together when you've got split government like this?
Yeah, there are 2 approaches. There's kind of what you see on the federal level, which is just obstructionism. Whatever the other party proposes, you automatically oppose and hope that that your party has the will to hold out. On a local level, we work together much better. You're not talking about, say, black and white issues in the same way that it is on the federal level, or even worldview issues. You're talking about fixing potholes much of the time, and so that allows for a lot more collegiality and, frankly, a lot more compromise. And so Fort Wayne isn't just, a purple city. I found that by and large, my constituents have said, okay, just make the best deal that you can. Don't be a conservative. When you have to, vote your conscience, but do your best to meet the mayor in the middle. And as we've done that, I think Fort Wayne's been well served. The product, the success of Fort Wayne, I think, is something that over the last generation, even in divided government, most people can be proud of. Yeah, there have been times where we've had to say, no, this is just something we can't compromise on. But then we take the vote and we all move on. And I think that's served Fort Wayne well.
And we will talk about, and some of these questions, some of these issues where there may be a disagreement between council and the mayor. Part of this collaboration is, as commissioner, I have the privilege of representing everyone that calls Allen County home. I was at a meeting on the quarry a couple of weeks ago, and a lady came up to me and said, I know you don't care what I think because I live in Fort Wayne. And I'm like, well, ma'am, I represent you too. Right. I mean, I look at my job as I'm the mayor of the county, which includes the citizens of Fort Wayne. So it's a great privilege. How well do you think the city and the county work together? Yeah. And are there ways we can improve on that?
Yeah, definitely. So I've served long enough to see where there was good cooperation between the city and county. And I think where we kind of had the larger view of the well-being of the community, because not very many people just sit there and think, let's see, what side of the Fort Wayne Corporation line am I? I think most people just kind of consider, wherever you live in Allen County, you're part of this. You're part of the same community. But for various reasons, that really has drifted. I think the last couple of years, I would even say that we've been antagonistic between the city and county. And I'm just grateful. I think a big change, frankly, with you coming on, has changed that tremendously, where there is that new focus on how do we get back to serving our community, not just picking a zero-sum game between unincorporated and Fort Wayne. I'm very excited about having 2 new commissioners with the opportunity to reset that thinking. And then you just said it yourself. Those 270,000 of us that live in Fort Wayne do need to shift our mindset a little bit if we want our commissioners and our county council and other Allen County elected officials to be more mindful of those of us that are Fort Wayne citizens, because you do represent us. And it's a big problem that we've had as Fort Wayne voters to be getting our mind that our Allen County elected officials represent unincorporated Allen exclusively and don't represent the city of Fort Wayne. And so it really needs to come back, especially when you think of the judicial system. Right. That is, Fort Wayne's branch of government is Allen County when it comes to judicial, and that's so big. Whether it's the jail or the courts or you name it, hey, your Allen County officials are the ones that are making those decisions for you in Fort Wayne.
No, and that's where I would agree with you on that. Is that one of the things I've found in government is we can become incredibly siloed. And, whether that's, there are a lot of elected officials in Indiana. I think we have more elected officials in this state than any other state per capita in the country when you look at from townships all the way to federal offices. And it can be very easy to be in a silo of, I'm Fort Wayne, leave me alone, or I'm Allen County, leave me alone, instead of we need to work together. Yeah. And how do we, because I've said this to Fort Wayne officials, I've said this to other elected officials in the county, I want your community to be successful, because if Fort Wayne's successful, it's good for Allen County. If New Haven's successful, whatever those things are, that's a good thing. Yeah. However, we cannot do things at Fort Wayne's favor to the expense of someone else, or vice versa. We can't do something in the county that's harmful to Fort Wayne.
Absolutely.
We have to sit there and work together. But part of that is really conversation, isn't it? And Councilman Yale's been with me and some other city council people and county council people, as we've talked about, looking in the future about ways we can further partner together. Are there areas that we can collaborate together? Between the two units of government, we have close to 4,000 employees. Surely we can find other ways to work together to get things done for the citizens of Allen County and Fort Wayne.
Yeah, and every time we've sat down with that, every time that you've convened that group, walk away optimistic, because we do find everything from low hanging fruit to sort of moonshots. And everything in between that say, the more that we talk and the more we look at what is good for both the city of Fort Wayne, the unincorporated part of Allen County, and it looking at us all as one community, our interests really are more aligned than they're not.
Right. No, I agree. So we talked a little bit, we touched briefly, one of the 4 topics you raised was a casino. And as the listeners are aware, the citizens of Allen County will be voting in November on a referendum. And that referendum is going to be pretty simple language. Do you, the citizen of Allen County or DeKalb County or Steuben County, support a gaming facility in your community? What are your thoughts on that, specifically in the city of Fort Wayne?
Yeah, I mean, it's real easy for me. If anybody asks me personally, do I want a casino here? No, I don't. Do I want to give a Fort Wayne as a city down to my kids, with a casino being a major part of the city? No. Now, if you ask me as a city council member, as part of the fiscal body who's responsible for revenue and lightening the tax burden on the taxpayer, I think you can have a reasonable discussion about it. And I think that's why it was very wise of the state legislature to, if they were going to try to encourage gambling in our community and a casino in our community, that at least they'd give us a full referendum. So I very much applaud the referendum. I was absolutely opposed to it without a referendum. If the citizens want to take the money and then accept the problems, great, they get the voice. If you're asking me, what do I want for my kids and my family? No, I don't want it. I'll be voting against it at the referendum.
Okay, fair enough. Another issue that's come up recently is Mayor Tucker has come out with a proposal publicly and to City Council for what is being called a low-barrier homeless center in downtown Fort Wayne. You have come out publicly and you've asked some questions on this. Some may even say you've challenged her a little bit on it. So what are your thoughts on the project and the concerns that you have about it?
Yeah. Let's step back and just look at the big picture. The big picture is homelessness is a growing issue throughout the nation. And most of the nation has tried a very liberal approach to homelessness, which is enabling it and just throwing money at it. And the West Coast obviously is led on that. We've seen low barrier shelters as kind of the fundamental aspect of that. It has not been successful. To his credit, President Trump has kind of begun to champion sort of an enforcement approach to that. I can't find a step-by-step plan for what a city that might want to focus on it looks like. But basically, it has more to do with trying to disrupt the desirability if you are chronically homeless, especially if you're on drugs, to say, hey, Fort Wayne is a great place to set up in my community, and they'll give me everything but drugs. Well, now, now what do you do here at the city where that is very mixed in opinion between conservatives and liberals, not particularly a divided government city? I think it's incumbent on me to say, okay, look, that wouldn't be the first direction I would go, but if the mayor wants to and is interested in making sort of a Fort Wayne specific plan, and some of that includes having a day shelter, I'm open to that, because I think that's probably what the majority of the community expects. But I'm not okay with just starting off with this huge thing without very much thought of the location. I think you do need to take a step back and say, with the rescue, was it smart to locate the rescue mission in the east part of downtown? And are you going to actually create a blast radius if you add more of that type of services on top of it? I think the east side of downtown's already struggling. I think you add more to it, you basically give up on a very significant part of downtown, and that's going to be the face of our community as people drive in on both east-west on Washington and Jefferson, Lafayette and Clinton. Those are gateway areas. Right. And so I have huge questions about the operations. All I did the other day was ask the business community why they don't have an opinion when it's so likely going to affect them. I think there are many questions that still need to be resolved before we can actually give a up or down on this particular thing.
Okay. And that's one that we definitely could probably put a whole segment on. Yeah, absolutely. That one. But we're going to take our next commercial break. You've been listening to Commissioner's Corner on WOWO. Welcome back to Commissioner's Corner. I'm your host, Allen County Commissioner Ron Turpin, and with me today is Russ Shale, Fort Wayne City Councilman. We talked, Russ, in the last segment about the referendum for the casino and for the homeless shelter in downtown Fort Wayne. One of the biggest things that's going to be impacting us locally and local government over really the next several years, between now and really 2030, is Senate Enrolled Act 1. And for the listeners, that is the property tax reform bill. And so the big piece of this is it doesn't change the assessed valuation on your house. What it changes is the credit structure. And so you go today from one set of credits to another set of credits, that those credits will ultimately have a significant impact on local government, particularly municipalities. And so Fort Wayne's already experienced some of that impact over the last year. But the biggest impact is going to ratchet up as we go through 2027, 2028, 2029. Councilman, what is the expected impact of Fort Wayne, and how are you going to be able to mitigate and address that?
Yeah. And the short answer to the first part is nobody knows what the impact's actually going to be. I'm not even sure the state legislature exactly knows what the impact's going to be. All we know is it appears to be very significant, and that's okay, because I look at it. It's a challenge from the taxpayers have said, look, we need property tax relief, and even though that goes to our property taxes go to fire, police, parks, and roads, we want you to do less with more with less. Okay, if that's what the taxpayers want, this is democracy. This is republic government. Right. Let's do our best. Let's take up the challenge.
Well, and that's a very different mindset than you hear in local government. I mean, you've heard me say one of the things, and spent my career in finance, I look at this as an opportunity. Mm-hmm. Now I don't know that the state did it well. I'll say that. I mean, there's I'm not sure the property tax relief is real yet.
Well,
talk to most of the listeners probably listening didn't see a big decrease in their bill, because until you really address assessed valuation, that's the real driver of what this increase has been.
Right.
However, I do think that this gives us an opportunity. We talked before about some of the efforts that you and I and several other council people are doing. It gives us an opportunity in local government to look at partnerships in a different way than we ever have before. because out of necessity
Yep.
more than anything else, right? However, this is a good thing, I think, ultimately. And then, we'll figure out, how do we are not going to cut back on emergency services, on fire, police. Those things are a priority for the
Right.
county. They're a priority for the city. However, there could be some things that we do right now that we need to relook at it. Hence, why to me it's kind of a head scratcher that now is the time that the mayor starts looking at a homeless center. Is
Right.
that do you really want to add what could be a couple $1 million a year in new spend on when you may have to cut 20 or 30 million? It's
Right.
So those are some of the challenges that we're all going to have to navigate through these next couple years.
Yeah. And so I simplify it into four major options. Number one, you can have your city fall apart. You can just let your city become a Rust Belt city. That will be the inertia of this bill. Number two, you can, and the state legislature is very transparent about this. They're like, hey, we want to reduce property taxes. We don't care if you raise income taxes to increase it. In fact, we're going to give you incentives to do that. Okay. So you can raise your income taxes. I don't think that's what the taxpayers were saying when they said lower our taxes. I don't think they were asking for a trade.
Well, and real quick on
Yeah.
that. So today, the citizens of Allen County pay about 1.53 on the income tax rate in
Yep.
Allen County. The legislature, to what Councilman Yale is saying, is we potentially could raise this to 2.9. So essentially almost doubling the income tax rate. And the legislature said, yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
Now, in local government, we're not so sure that's a great idea. But that is, to your
Right.
point of number two, that is an option.
Right. And as a working family, I am pretty perturbed that every solution from elected officials is coming after working young families.
Right.
Take even more of my income away. But then number three, you can quit participating in economic development. That's where most of the income tax money goes. You can take less property taxes, which is the result of SB1. You can quit filling the pockets of out-of-state developers as thickly as we've done. That is something that our previous administration, current administration, strongly resists. That's not a popular proposal. I do think that a lot of my constituents maybe like to see that done less, is giving away less money. And then number four, I guess you can come in. You got to reform your government. That's something that I would have started off with. That is something that the administration so far has fiercely resisted. They are going to get one more shot at it this year. We've got now with a whole year of SB1 on the books. It'll be interesting to see how much of that. But my gut is if you're going to avoid an income tax increase, what you got to do is you got to start off. You got to cut your non-essential services to the bone, and that will save you millions. And then if you still have to cut from there, then you have to change your philosophy on how you do economic development. It's got to be much smarter and you got to cut the fat out of that.
Yeah. And again, this is a topic that we'll probably be discussing in much more detail throughout the years as we get deeper into it. Another issue that's in the news right now that is something that I certainly have heard a lot about is a proposed quarry on the southwest side of Allen County. Now, this project is not in the city of Fort Wayne. However, City Council has weighed in on this unanimously
Yep.
in its opposition. Why?
Yeah, and this goes back to our previous question of, hey, how does the city and county, how do we not just coexist, but how do we align our interests so that the reality of that we're one big community goes forward? Well, we've spent all this time and effort investing in these plans and these philosophies of togetherness, like All in Allen. And that calls not for this area to become a quarry. It's agriculture. It's maybe light business, residential, and then basically right out of the gate from all the hoopla and kumbayas of the city and county getting along and having this joint plan. Boom! Let's put the most intensive possible use we could right on a residential edge of Fort Wayne and drive down the property values of Fort Wayne residents. Terrible idea in my humble opinion, but that is why that is why I supported the letter, even though I represent Northeast Fort Wayne. Right. It's not specifically my constituents' property values that might be affected by it.
And I will give thanks to council that before the letter was made public, it was sent to us first, as the Board of Commissioners to, in courtesy, which I appreciate, so it wasn't just a quick run to the media. I mean, however, this is one, as I always tell people, anyone has the right to sell land to whoever they want. And, Allen County has 660 square miles. 110 of that is the city of Fort Wayne. So there's a lot of land that's there. Now, the challenge is you can sell it to whoever you want. You can't do whatever you want on that, right? So the discussion's still happening. Will there be a quarry there or not? I don't know. I mean, that debate is still going on, and it's we need to have that debate. Those are good conversations to have. So I do thank the city council for weighing in and giving their opinion, because, again, I represent those 9 people the same as 403,000 others. So
yeah, and I don't think I can emphasize enough. Part of the reason that that the city council sends a letter is that we actually know that you're listening. And so we appreciate that. There might be other things that we've been frustrated by, and we don't even bother to send the letter because what's the point? And we appreciate knowing that we send a letter to you and the commissioners that you do take your fiduciary responsibility to look at the good of the whole community into account.
No, thank you for that. So we also kind of touched lightly on Electric Works. And so when you look at that project, the taxpayers of Allen County, by the time the bonds get paid off, we will have invested close to $100 million in that project. Has council gotten any updates on the return on this investment?
No, the developers have been very consistent. This has now gone on for close to a decade. Very consistent. When they need something, they're very approachable. When they've got money, who on earth are you? Leave me alone. So we're in the leave me alone, I know what I'm doing phase. Of course, I've always been skeptical of these particular developers because they don't have any money of their own invested in it. I was never convinced that they knew what they were doing. So the last time that the Fort Wayne City Council's heard anything about where their constituents' money went was last year when I was council president. Brought them in to give an update to council, and they said things were swimmingly well, and that they would be up to stabilized, which is sort of a legal term for they will be almost at full occupancy, and everyone will be really proud of the project by this time this year. So that year has come and gone. I haven't seen anything changed, but I'm not surprised.
So in your opinion, was this a good use of taxpayer dollars?
No. The one thing positive that it achieved was historic preservation. It had a secondary positive of being a job retention project for Do It Best. But over the 10 years of funding this, it was never, hey, if we save the bricks and keep Do It Best in town, that would be success. It was always, this is going to be the marquee part of Fort Wayne. This is what you were going to bring your out-of-town family and friends to and say, this is Fort Wayne. I love it. It is cool. And so, no, it hasn't brought any new jobs. It's cost an exorbitant amount of money. We said the one thing we weren't going to do is move jobs from one end of the city to the other end of the city, which is exactly what we did. In fact, we poached New Haven's jobs and brought them over. It's not cool. It's not leased. And by the way, let's not even get started about that the whole promise was that they were going to save the whole campus. As it is, I'd be surprised if this ownership group is actually paying its bills with its current cash flow.
All right, and with that, we will take our next commercial break. You are listening to Commissioner's Corner on WOWO. Welcome back to Commissioner's Corner. I'm your host, Allen County Commissioner Ron Turpin, and with me today is my guest, Russ Shale, Fort Wayne City Councilman. So, Russ, we talked about a number of topics here. We just got off talking about Electric Works. Another proposed project for the city administration is a field house on the North River property.
Yeah.
So this is one that, in the mayor's vision, is centered by a field house, but it's a couple $100 million project that is being proposed. What has city council been told about this project?
Nothing.
So, I mean, literally,
just that it's going to happen, and if council needs to vote for it, they'll let us know.
So you've not been told about a capital stack or how it's proposed to be paid for or anything? Because
No.
the price tag I've heard is north of $80 million to build a field house, and then all the ancillary development would be additional to that.
No, I think the administration's objective, and I applaud them for this, is if they want it so badly, they're going to try to create a funding route that doesn't require council's approval. And
how can they do that?
That's probably wise, because the majority of council does think, at least as far as I can tell, thinks that we missed a real opportunity to unload an asset that's potentially going to cost the public a lot of money, whether it's funds directly controlled by council or whether it's indirectly, such as through food and bev money by the Capital Improvement Board. But this thing goes all the way back to the last administration wanting this piece of land so badly. It went through all of the warning signs of don't buy this piece of land. It hasn't been environmentally vetted yet. And the last I saw, it was something like between $6 to $10 million. Even though the administration warranted it, it was just a couple, maybe $100,000 or something at most to fix the environmental, because it was so clean. I think it's something like $6 to $10 million. That's before you even just get your land. That's more. We bought an upside down asset. We had an offer to make ourselves whole. Instead, we're going full speed into a very expensive project that, by the way, at most is just going to invite affluent, out of town people to bring their kids to play sports. It's not for my kids. It's not for your kids. And the public investment, you're talking about numbers similar to Electric Works. Electric Works was supposed to have a $250 million economic boom. I think this project, something's supposed to only have something like a $30 million annual economic boom. It's basically, by the time you count it all up, it's the same investment and something like only 15% of the return. And by the way, Electric Works hasn't exactly hit their numbers.
Right. So you mentioned in here, and I was going to bring up, so last year there was an offer from Chuck Surak and Daryl Doden of $12 million to buy the property. And then as part of that offer, they pledged to devote a lot of their own assets and into building this out to a real center for the region. That offer was rejected by the administration. Was council ever made aware of that offer or weighed in on it?
I think exclusively through the press, I believe.
So the administration never really came to you all as council and said, "Hey, we have this offer. Let's talk about this."
Nobody ever asked me my opinion, but that's, what do I know about real estate?
You just done your career in it, right?
15 years in commercial real estate, 400 real estate transactions, and by the way, when we talk about North River, I think I've been right. We shouldn't have bought the property without an environmental. It's just the very basics of real estate. So
and that's another topic that we could probably spend the entire segment talking about on there. But we still have some questions we have to get to in the last minutes we have together. Knowing that you've been on council for a number of years, what is one thing that you would like to accomplish for Fort Wayne if there was no barrier?
Yeah.
Either political, financial, or...
Okay, well, the biggest thing, and I know that this might shock a lot of people because it just is not on the typical political radar screen, is the city does not spend enough money on its infrastructure to keep up with what Mother Nature annually destroys. So your roads, your sidewalks, your alleys, your curbs, all those things that have been the reason for income tax number 1, income tax number 2, your MVH or your
wheel tax,
your
motor
wheel
vehicle
tax,
tax, yeah.
Those 3 things, they've all happened. You're paying more, and we still haven't hit what we need to hit. And SB1's only going to make it more challenging. And the confusion is every year the city says, "Hey, we're spending record amounts, hooray!" And then my constituents say, "Well, how come my potholes aren't being filled? How come my road still looks terrible?" It's because the city's, it might be self-congratulating itself for spending is more than it ever has, but it's not spending enough. It's not sustainable. It's not what it needs. There's something like $400 million, I think, when we just look at our deferred road maintenance, that still needs to be accomplished. And with SB1, with that, we were truly positioning ourselves. We gotten out of debt. We didn't have any road bonds. We were truly positioning ourselves to begin to make big inroads on that. But now we're back at square one, and fighting for infrastructure is going to be a difficult challenge, and it's going to have to stay top of mind. And frankly, it's not top of mind. It's least sexy. It's just something that's not talked about very often when we talk about what we really need to do with our city finances.
So, speaking about the future, what is your view of the future for City of Fort Wayne?
Yeah, I mean, I love this town. This is where I grew up. It's a city I am proud to hand off to my kids, and my generation, if you wanted to be successful, you basically had to believe that you had to leave this community, because there weren't very many great opportunities for a young person to have their roots and be successful here. I believe that's entirely changed. I'm excited about that. There's a lot of great things, and my job as the city councilman is to make sure that our finances are in good shape, that the city is well taken care of, that the visions of the next elected officials and the next generation, that they are enabled to do so. And I'm very proud that aside from, I think, some excessive debt downtown, you talk about the things that the city council really handles. I think I'm passing off this community and certainly its local government in a better position so that the dreams of the next generation can be achieved.
So, final question. The hour always goes by much quicker than what we think. We have just come off of what many of us would say was a very contentious primary. Probably one of the most contentious I've ever seen.
Yes.
Next year is city election.
Yeah.
And so we're already hearing about a number of what can be contested primaries. So what are you hearing about that?
Oh, I hear the same things you do. A year is a long way away. I think speaking as a Republican, my colleagues and Republican brethren that think that the mayor is very vulnerable, I think she is essentially an incumbent, and the public wants her to be successful, and especially because the headwinds are against Republicans from national politics. I think if the Republicans want to retain or retake the mayor's seat, they're going to have to really find a great candidate. And so I'm also happy to say that is not me.
Thought we'd make some news here.
Absolutely not. So yes, my son will be in high school in the next election, or senior in high school in the next election cycle. I'm all in on his senior year.
Well, and I have told people every time I get asked about it, I'm the mayor of the county. I love being mayor of the county. And so, however, when you are mayor of Fort Wayne, you are always on. There is no off switch, right? So, a police shooting happens or some tragedy happens, you've got to be there. So, to your point, that's a job that if you're going to do it, you're all in, and there's no halfway measure on it. So, you got to be fully into that. So, well, Russ, the hour went by quickly. I want to thank you for being with us today and for your service to the people of Fort Wayne.
Well, right back at you.
Hey, we appreciate you, our listeners, for joining us. Hopefully you have learned something today and that we've answered some questions you may have had. This is Allen County Commissioner Ron Turpin, and you have been listening to Commissioner's Corner here on WOWO.